Welcome for our Ahmedabad Mulesoft Meetup group. So this is our second virtual meetup, or we can say the first meetup in this year. And as you know that we are going to cover Mule 4 custom connector, how exactly the connector is developed, what are the ways we can create the connector. So this is the topic today. And let me go to the another slide. Okay, so when we join Meetup, so these are the guidelines we normally follow. That suppose we have any question, then so you can ask question at any time in the chat section. We will answer the question whenever we get time, or all question answer will be given at the end of the session. And the video is kind of mandatory that if you open the video, then it will be kind of very helpful to each other, and it will be kind of very communicating, conferencing kind of that if you not open the video. So we feel that you might you not fully involved in this meetup. So that's why we suggest everyone that please turn on your video. It is also be useful for when we taking a picture. And today's agenda for where we have a meetup, and we will be discussing the Mule 4 connectors and development. And we have a question and answer at end of this session, and we will have a quiz participant. And let me give you update. So these are the update. You can check release note for latest update of Mulesoft site, whether it is in let me copy that and show you that how exactly it is. So I open that. As you can see that there are many components. We can see the update, for example, in what are the studio update, Anypoint Studio release updates we got. So as you know that we got 7.8 version. So these are this is the latest update we can say we have, and we can check that what is a new features is coming in Anypoint Studio. So the same way we can check all updates here. What are the updates happening? As we can check that in the Cloud Hub release note, what are the updates are available? Like this 26 January, these are the updates are available. Okay, so this is regarding updates. What kind of updates we have? Okay, so and introduction to our organizer. So myself, Sheikh Moinuddin, you already know that I'm working in Apicero as a Mulesoft architect, and I am having total 8+ years of experience and total 7+ experience in Mulesoft. So I started working on Mulesoft from 2014 on Mule version 3.4. So that time 3.4 version, I started my career in Mulesoft, and now we are working on 4.3. So you can say that pretty much experience I have in Mulesoft side, 7+ experience. And I have my colleagues Rajesh and Tejas, who also organization. I am going to give opportunity to Rajesh to give their introduction.
Yeah, sure. So, hello everyone. My name is Rajesh. Basically, I'm from Ahmedabad, and I have a total 17 years of experience. And I started Mulesoft in 2009, uh, pretty much like when it was version 2.x, and then it was a like major change like when Mulesoft migrated from 2 to 3.x. So I started in that. Like it was earlier, it was not inbound, it was like endpoints and all. Then they have changed whole syntax in 3.x, 3.1, 3.2. So I have pretty much experience on all 3.x version. And now I'm working on 4.x. And I'm also running the organization called Basilute Technologies in Ahmedabad. Thanks for everyone. Let me know.
Yeah, thank you, Rajesh. Yeah, so basically, just let me check whether our speaker is able to log in or not. Just give me 1 minute only. I will not take much.
Hello. Hear me? Just hold on.
We can hear you, Chetan.
Okay, great. I think it's sorted now. Sorry for that. I'm not sure what's
No
the
problem.
issue
No
came
problem.
up. Ah,
Yeah. So Chetan, let me give you update. So basically, we covered our introduction, our organization introduction, and we have given updates to everyone about Mulesoft. And this is your introduction I'm going to give. So, guys, today speaker is Chetan, who working in Apicero on multiple projects. Working very good experience with Chetan on multiple projects, and Chetan has implemented connectors for MuleSoft also. So the Chetan is kind of best person from our side to give the demo, to understand and to give the feature, what kind of features we have all about the connector, because Chetan is kind of very famous in episode also. So I'm going to give control to the Chetan about his introduction from his way, and he is going to present his screen. Okay, let me stop sharing.
okay. Okay, let me know once you can see my screen.
It's, as of now, screen is not shared yet.
Yeah, I'm just sharing it out.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Sheikh, and the organizers for this introduction. So, as Sheikh mentioned, my name is Chetan, and I'm working as a senior software engineer at Epicero. I've been into multiple engagements like integration solutioning. Along with that, I also worked on Java-based custom connectors, which we used in MuleSoft. So as a part of this session, we will be discussing about what are the connectors we have in Mule4, like what exactly a connector is, what's the need of it, why and when we should go for building up a connector, and if we thought to go with building up a connector, what are the ways possible which we can opt for to build up a connector. Okay, so let's get started with our today's session. So when we talk about connectors, the first question arises in our mind is, what is a connector? So we are using multiple connectors in MuleSoft like Salesforce or Workday, the connectors by IBM also. So it's nothing but a Mule extension. We can you might have heard about the word the reusability. So connectors helps in using the components. So connectors gives us the easiest way to connect to the outer world APIs. You might be having the question like why we Salesforce have exposed their own APIs. Why don't we go and just use those APIs rather than building up a connector? So we will discuss about those scenarios also. But first, we need to think about what is a connector. So as I said, it's a reusable extension which makes uh, use of internal Mule Sdk functionalities to give out the solutioning. The solution may include connecting to the outer world or outbound APIs. It can be some scope, some internal functionalities like validation components. You might have seen the async scope, which is a type of scope operation. So all these contribute to the operations of a connector. And when I say connector is more about the whole module, like Salesforce or Workday, which we have discussed about. So next question arises is, as we were discussing, if we have the APIs already exposed by these organization, why we should go with the connectors. So these are the some points which contribute to why we should have a connector. The first in the bullet says the reusability, of course. So if let's say we are calling a Salesforce system, and for a client, it might be a little bit hectic for us to every time just do that API configuration, taking care of all the error handling part, and giving the parameters, headers, query parameters required by those APIs. So rather than we go and we can create a module, extension module, which can be reused, we can just drag and drop, and we no need to take care of all those things. Okay, so the second point comes into the picture is the easy connectivity. So when I say easy connectivity, is more about, rather than using a requester, why don't we have a Java code internally which is doing us the connectivity. So it contributes to much faster connectivity to the outbound APIs which we are using. Or as I said, for reusability, as it also contributes in reducing the complexity of our codes. So let's take an example of a Google API, if everybody has worked on it, or it's in, let me give you a brief about it. Even when we call an API, it's nothing directly we need to call that API. For that, we have to first give our credential, get the tokens, then give that token to our real API and taking care of all those stuff. So before making an actual API call, we need to take care of all those stuff also. So if we do that, if we implement a connector which is doing all these things internally, which contribute to the less code complexity, and thus also contribute to the easy authentication and authorization. Because as I mentioned, when I go with using a API, I have to first generate a access token giving the username and password, then use add that access token and check its validity if I'm going to reuse it. So a custom connector does it internally for us. We have to just give it the username and the credentials. It will take care of all the things internally, either it is token generation or checking the validity of your access token, and if it is not valid, then again generating a token from a refresh token. So all those things can be internally taken care by the connector module. We don't have to think about that. So it also helps in giving us the fast and easy development. There's one more point which talks about request validation. When I say a request validation, when we call, let's say, when we call an API, we need to take care of what input body it takes in. Okay, so we have to first figure it out, what the inputs which can be entertained by this API, and what if we give some wrong values. So rather than hassling the server and bothering the server to do the validation, we can introduce metadata in our connectors, which is internally responsible for validating your request, and helps the server in losing the load, and we can, at the client end, we can just validate our request and get the errors if anything goes wrong at the client end only. So as I mentioned about request validation, so for sure, for validation, we should have a metadata which validates the input data also. So when I'm using or building up a custom module, I can feed in the input metadata as well output metadata. So before making a API call, I know what type of input I can feed in and what type of output I can expect out of this API call. So metadata also helps in understanding what we are expecting as a part of output if I make use of this operation of the particular connector module. Last is the exception handling or error propagation. When I say exception handling and propagation, it's more about giving the proper propagating the proper error to the calling service or the client or the user who is using that connector. Let's say there are some APIs where we are not able to debug or get to know what's the exactly the reason behind the particular error, but in the connector modules we can also do error handling, which helps in proper propagation of errors with the proper reasons, so user can do the changes which are required to make that call successful. If anybody have any question, they can just poke me in or jump in between. Sheikh, you can check it, the chat screen, if they have any question.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, thank you. So next question arises after what and why a connector is the when we should go with a connector. So as every time it is recommended to look for the already implemented solution over the exchange, or if we don't have the out of the box functionality or connector available over exchange or any other the Mulesoft exchange or any other exchange available in the market, if we don't have any use case which is similar to us, then we should go with building our connectors. Because if we are it's okay if we are building up a custom connector for a particular client which is limit to their particular organization, but when we think of building up a connector which will be used globally, so there comes in the picture of the time which is needed to build up those connector module, the financial costing, because if we go with the licensing of our connectors in Mulesoft, it may also cost some money. And for sure the getting certified, getting a connector to be certified is not an easy process. There's a lot of checks and rules we need to adhere to, and it's provided by Mulesoft if we want our connector to get certified and used globally. So this is what we should consider before building up a connector. So these are the some common connectors in Mule4 which is being widely used, which says Salesforce, is SAP, SAP, Amazon SQS, ServiceNow, SAP Hybris. So these all connectors are widely used in Mule4. And Epicero is also responsible for connector development. Like we have built the connector like SAP Hybris for Mule 3 and 4, Metric connector, Redux connector, which is available over Exchange. So anybody can download it and make use of it. So next point of discussion is what are the types of connector. When I say types, these categories are divided based upon who have developed that connector and who will be going to support and maintain that connector. So based upon that, Mulesoft has categorized into 4, which is community, Mulesoft certified, select, and premium. When we say community connectors are nothing but it is developed by Mulesoft or Mulesoft community members, and they are responsible for maintaining it, and there's no license needed to use these connectors. The second second category comes into the picture is the Mulesoft certified. So this is developed by the Mulesoft partners, and Mulesoft partners is responsible for supporting and maintaining this connector. Okay, like Epicero is a Mulesoft partner. So if we go through the certification process, the level of the connector will be marked as Mulesoft certified and developed by Epicero. The third category comes into the picture here is the select connector. So Mulesoft is maintaining the select category connectors, and support is also given by them. but there are also some premium connectors, which the fourth category is the premium connector, which are the paid one. We should have an active Cloud Hub premium plan or enterprise licensing in order to use these premium categories connectors. And if you want to just search or over the X, you can just go to Exchange. In the search bar, you can just filter the asset by connectors and just directly write premium, select, or Mulesoft certified or community. Whatever you will write, it will just filter and show all the connectors which belongs to that particular category. So in that way you can do that. If you want to see, I can show you real quick. So if we go to Exchange here and let's search for connectors, and I want to go with select category. So let's say this is a Mule 3 connector. You can see the level of this connector, which is select. So we have 4 different levels, which we have discussed: Mulesoft Certified, Select, Premium, and Community. So if you see these, one of these connector, the level of for this particular connector is Mulesoft Certified. So in this way, you can check what is the level or the category of your connector. Now we will discuss about what are the ways to build up a custom connector. So Mulesoft provided 3, which is the REST Connect tool, XML Sdk, which is a part of Mule Sdk itself, and the third one is the Mule Sdk for Java. So these are the possible ways in Mule 4 which can be used to build up a connector. When we go back to Mule 3, there's a dev kit tool being used for creating the Mule 3 connector. But later when we got Mule 4 version, they discarded the dev kit tool in order to build the connectors, and they introduced Mule Sdk. So if let's say I have a Mule connector more than built using 3.8 or more than that, I can use devkit migration tool to migrate my Mule 3 connector to Mule 4 connector. It doesn't does it 100%, but it's similar to what we have the Mule migration tool, which is used to migrate Mule 3 code to Mule 4. So similarly, for moving a Mule 3 connector from Mule 3 connector to Mule 4 connector, we can use devkit migration tool if we want to move our connector to Mule 4, and we can use Mule SDK to furthermore enhance it. So moving forward, we will first discussed about REST Connect. So REST Connect, you might have heard about this term, might be first time because it is being internally used by the exchange. So it uses your specification to build out a connector out of it. So let's say I have written some specification in my design center, and I published it to Exchange. So when I go to my published asset, I get a download option there. So I can download it as RAML open API specification, but down towards that, we can also see download it as a Mule 3 or a 4 connector. So here the REST Connect version 1.0 comes into the picture. So Exchange uses REST Connect tool internally to convert your specification into a Java based code, and it gives us a jar out of it based upon our specification. So, but we do have some limitations because it's just a conversion happening from your RAML or open API specification to the Java code internally. So for sure we don't get that much control over the code. Like we cannot create a custom TLS configuration So there are some specifications supported by this tool, which can be used to generate a connector. So these are the listed one. So we mostly use YAML 1.0, but other than that, you can use Open API specification 3, which can be JSON or YAML based, and Open API specification 2, which is again for JSON and YAML. So these are the supported security scheme by this approach. If we go with building up a connector using the specification, but here do we have one limitation? We can build only one type of connector, which is just making a call to another API. We cannot create some functionality or some connectors like we are doing, which are doing validation or which are helpful within the code to process the payload or chunking the payload. So we can create the connectors, which is used for outbound messaging using the REST Connect tool. So our second approach comes into the picture is the XML Sdk, which is a part of Mule Sdk itself. So in this, it's more similar to what we see in our flows. If we go to the base code of the flows which we built, it is similar to that. It internally uses all those tags, and we do have some special tags here in order to um, mark it as a module or the extension. So when I say module is more about the whole package. Let's say Salesforce. So Salesforce, I will name it as Salesforce. So this will become a whole module. Under that module, I can have multiple operations. That operation can be upsert, update, insert, so and so on. So under a single module, I can have multiple operations, and each operation have basically three components, which is parameters, body, and output. Parameters is nothing but what input it takes. Body is more about the business logic it will do depending upon the parameters we are accepting, and output tag tells about what type of output we need to give out of this operation. But for sure, we get more control over our code when we go with XML Sdk. So when we use XML Sdk, it's internally doing the same thing, changing your XML code to the Java based code. Internally, it is also getting converted to the Java libraries, and we can use it as a Mule plugin into our project. So the main thing which we are going to discuss about here is about Mule Sdk for Java. So this is being widely used when we need to go with heavy modules, when we want to build heavy modules like Salesforce, because we need better control about what we are doing. If we need lighter functionality while building a custom connector, we can always go with XML Sdk. But if there is very heavy processing happening and we need to take care of multiple things like the threading strategies, error handling and stuff, we can go with, and we should go with Mule Sdk.
And there is one question from Subha. What is the most commonly used approach to develop connector out of these three?
Yeah, it totally depends, Shubha, because as I mentioned, if let's say I can use REST Connect tool, let's say I've built a system API, and I don't want to I just want a connector which I can directly use in my process API to call those system APIs. So what I can do, I can just go to my Exchange. I can use the specification of my system API to build up a connector and use that module in my process API. So I will know like what configuration is needed by the system API. So I just need to plug in that, give the URL, the Cloud Hub, if wherever it is deployed, the URL, and the parameters is supported by the system API. So in that case, I can use a REST Connect tool. And when we talk about, as I mentioned about XML Sdk, let's say we have a compression module, but we have a limitation there. We cannot create a zip out of it which is password protected. So there's a requirement like I want to create a custom connector which is responsible for compressing the file as well as encrypting it also. So I can go with XML Sdk because it's a small functionality. But when we discuss about thing which we need to make, which is very large, like a connector which will support multiple things, let's take into consideration SAP Hybris or Salesforce connector. So it is it's not only just providing you the connectivity to the APIs, it is internally taking care of the performance, error handling, threads, so all those stuffs. So for that we can directly go with Java and use Mule SDK for Java to build up those kind of connectors.
Okay, thank you, Chetan, for answer. There's one more question from Harish.
Mhm.
So Harish mentioned that, can you elaborate a custom TLS configuration? What is supported, what is not supported?
Okay. So we have to dig more upon that. When we say TLS is it is more about handshaking when we are two-way SSL. So, but there are some. It's a standard when I say about two-way handshake, but there can be other configuration. Let's say my client want to do handshake. They want some custom functionality as a part of that handshake also. So we cannot do that with the REST connect. It will adhere to the standard procedure, which is making a call to the server, then exchanging the keys, finally in the handshake, and that's only you got the successful connectivity. But other than that, if the client wants some custom handshake operation happening between, so we cannot do with REST connect.
But it is possible in SDK, correct?
Yes, Mule SDK for Java, it's possible because it's Java code. It's so when the Java comes into the picture, we have more control over what we are doing. So let's say a handshake is successful. So after a handshake is successful, I want to do additional operation also as a part of that, my custom TLS. So I can introduce it in my code.
So, well, we can say, as we have a HTTP listener and HTTP requester, those are also a connector, correct?
Correct.
Those having built on a Mule SDK.
Mhm.
So those having the TLS configuration.
Mhm.
Okay, so we can have our own TLS configuration in custom connector also.
Yes.
Okay. So hope Harish, your question is answered from.
So we will when we move to demonstration, I will show you like how the TLS configuration or the parameters looks like, and how we can increase the parameters for the particular group or the tabs. So that will answer your question more.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, Singh. Thank you, Chetan.
Yeah. So as we are discussing about Mule SDK for Java, so we need something before starting with Mule SDK, which is of course JDK 8. We use JDK 8 for building this custom connector, the Maven, because the archetype the template which we are going to download is the Mavenized project. Any IDE you can use Anypoint Studio, Eclipse, IntelliJ. So, and Anypoint Studio for testing your connector. So whatever you have built, you can test it on Studio as a part of your development. So as I've mentioned about Archetype, as you know, is a templating toolkit provided by Maven. So in the Archetype, we can just go and import the project structure or template needed for a particular type of module. So for Mule SDK Java-based connectors, there is a Archetype available over Maven. So we can use this command to import or to get that architecture type of the project. So it internally, so it builds a project structure for us, the basic structure which is needed to create a custom connector. So let's move to the playground now and see how things work when we move to the Mule SDK using Java. as a part of this session, we will emphasize more on the Java SDK, because I think that's a crucial thing, and everything is being converted. Either it is XML or REST Connect, it is converting it to the Java internally. So let's get started. I will just see this archetype. I will go to some. I will just open a command prompt here. Is that command?
So when we run this command, it is asking for project name or.
Yeah, it will ask for some general information as a part of Maven project, because a Maven project have a group ID, artifact ID, the version. So it will ask those basic information.
Okay.
I guess this will take a little bit time. Okay. So I have already imported a template. We can just directly go to it and see it's working. It says no JVM found. So I will import a already built project.
So there's one question from Harish. So basically, we are going to give the Java SDK demo, correct? Not XML based.
No, we are more emphasizing on Mule Sdk for Java.
Okay. And one question: if we develop a custom connector, can we get certified by Mulesoft?
Yes, you can, but you have to adhere to some rules and regulation. You have to get in touch with Mulesoft to saying about you want your connector to be certified. So they will help you with all the procedures which is part of your getting get a Mulesoft certified connector. So they will also share some checklist with you, which should be taken care or taken into the consideration before submitting into the Mulesoft, which is nothing but the code smell and some, like if you heard about Pojo, when we a Pojo, they have like I will give you an example. Your project should not contain any Pojo classes, because and there are a lot of checklist from development, from pipeline, because we have to also maintain the pipeline for the future. So we have to also take care of all those stuff. So this kind of structure we will get once we use that archetype command. So we will get 5 classes which are imported when we use that architecture. So the main class, the main program starts from main program starts from the extension class. So extension class is nothing but is where it tells about what type of extension it is, what's the name of that extension, and other licensing information. Other than that, we have to also tell what configurations are supported by this module. As you can see in the configuration annotation, it says demo configuration dot class. So it's nothing but this configuration class. So extension is pointing to this configuration. So this configuration will be supported by the whole module. So here we are just having a configuration ID. We will see how it looks like in the studio. Then we have a connection provider, which is helpful for making the connectivity with the your end system or the target system. Here we have some methods like connect, disconnect, and validate. So if you can see, this configuration class is implementing some interface. It's a pooling connection provider. It's nothing but what type of connection provider which we are using. If it is pooling connection provider, it will call the connect and disconnect method only once. It will call the connect method when our application is deploying, and disconnect method when our application is undeploying. So you might have seen when we deploy our Mule application, it internally checks for all the configuration. So there's nothing happening, just your connect method is being called to check the configuration you provided is correct or not. And when we talk about the validate method is nothing but the test connect configuration you see. So when we go to the configuration part of any connector, let's talk about. So you see we have a button called test connection here. So when we click on this test connection, this validate method will be called, and whatever logic we will write in this validate method, based upon that it will return success or failure. By default, you can see we are returning success as of now. So whenever I click the test connection for this module, it will always be a successful connection. The next class comes into the picture is the connection. We can include all those parameters which we want to share with the operations. Operations, when I say, is more about the modules operations, like here. So we can do it like, we can also include the access token if we are using internally. So we can, if we want to provide those access token and made it available over across the multiple operation, we can include all those parameter in the connection class. The last class, and which is very important, is the operations class. So you can see in my connection provider, I have given a annotation. Just hold on. Sorry, it's not here. Sorry, configuration. So in my configuration, I am telling what is the who is the connection provider for this configuration, and what are the operations supported by this configuration. So all the operations under this class will be supporting this particular configuration and connection provider. So as a part of this operation, we have two operations here. The method should be public, so it should be accessible throughout. So I'm using as a part of this template, they have provided us two operations, which is say hi and retrieve information.
Okay, and one question from my side. So I have used Salesforce connector, and the Salesforce connector, I'm making a connection to the Salesforce using multiple method. Like whether I am providing a authorization URI and username and password, and sometimes it is saying that you can make a connection using token also. So how we decided here?
Sorry, can you please pardon?
Yeah, so basically, suppose we are making a connection to the Salesforce, and in the drop down, there's a multiple option coming, like username and password, or using a Okta token, or using a access token we can make. So how those things are handled here?
Okay, so it totally depends on if it is not, we are not supporting multiple configuration. If I are supporting multiple configuration, you will for sure get a drop down at the top, like what configuration you want to use. But in a configuration, when you get a drop down, it is more about you are using a parameter, you can see in my connection provider, I have some parameters like required parameter. As of now, it is a string, so it will show up as a text box
Correct.
directly into. But if I use this parameter as a type of enumeration, so the enum will come as a drop down in your
Okay.
GUI. So this is also a smart thing what this Mule SDK does. Based upon your code, how you are coding it, what you are writing, it creates the GUI.
And there is no separate like HTML code or any other XML code who created GUI. The GUI is created ultimately from Java, correct?
Yes, Java plus Mule SDK, because Mule SDK is built upon Java and they have added more functionality. So internal libraries are taking care of all those stuff.
GUI. Okay, so there are some question from. So can there be multiple Mulesoft certified connector for the same system? For example, AWS RDS or from different individual partner or exchange. For example, there can be Salesforce. There can be two Salesforce connector for connecting Salesforce. No, right?
I have not seen something like this. I don't think that is possible. Like if they have a certified connector for the system which is being widely used, like Salesforce, so there will always be a one connector. But when it comes to some custom clients, I'm not sure about that. But I don't think there can be multiple connectors for a single target system.
Okay, because Salesforce is a multi-tenant, means there's this one Salesforce instance using by all Salesforce customer, correct? That's why they have. If it is, if for example, if Salesforce itself is on premises, for example, the multiple Salesforce instances are running, but so ultimately connector will be same, but the property will be configurable. You want to connect to this host, you want to connect with this host, correct? Like
Yes.
database connector.
Yes. So they default, they provide some default information here. If you see, right, when like I'm getting multiple option here, right? How I'm getting it? Because Salesforce is internally using 5 configuration classes. So
Okay.
in my extension, I have given the configuration as only one class. They might be using multiple 5 configuration classes. So that's why it's showing it as 5 configurations, 5 different configurations. So whatever I will select on, it will pop in the particular connection provider, and what are the parameters in that connection provider, it will load it up in the GUI.
Okay. So there's one question from Subha. For example, I have a Salesforce connector and the query connector under it. How can we see it in the development? So I think Shubha is talking about operation, correct? Number of operation.
Yes. So this is our whole connector module, and these are the operations.
Yes. So if we have a multiple operation, then those operation can be listed here.
Yes.
And if operation having multiple property, then those property can be uh, defined below. Correct?
Correct.
Like in
As
correct about job, we have a job ID. Okay,
yes.
so
Okay. Like this. So job ID is nothing but let's say in my this operation, I am having an input of person, which is type of string. So it will pop. So similarly for job ID, they are having a string, and here it will say job ID. So that's why it is coming up as job ID. Yeah.
okay, okay, yes.
Okay. Do we have any more questions, Sheikh?
No, no, no. We can proceed further.
Okay, great. So does anybody have any question on these 5 classes? Like our code, I will just quickly recap it, what we said. The entry point is the extension, which tells about what is the name of it, what configuration it follows, the other licensing information, and in future, if we do error handling, also we have to tell about which error handling class which we need to use. So we can use other annotations also here if we want to enhance. It totally is in our hand how modularized and how enhanced we want to make our connector. And afterward extension, it will move to the configuration, because extension tells about what configuration provides. So configuration tells about under this configuration what is the connection provider will be used in order to make the connectivity with the target system, and what are the all operations supported by this configuration. Okay. And connection class can be used for exchanging of some common parameters, like the access token, which is being used widely between the operations. So and then we have connection providers, which is responsible for making the connection with the end system. We have connect, disconnect, and validate method. And at the last, we have the operations. So as you see, these are the two operations for this module. Other than that, as a part of this template, we get some unit tests also, because unit test is also needs to be done as a part of your development testing also, and as a check to your connector when you are submitting it to the Mulesoft for the certifications. So for that, you have to create the test case for each of the operation, and you have to also create the Mulesoft test framework, which is nothing but the same XML flows. We have to import it here as a which will test your each operation is working fine or not. So we were just asserting the outputs and checking up. And it is more of SIT testing also, because we may be calling internally there some sandbox hosted URL, which like real call comes into the picture. We will not mock anything. So let's build up this connector. This is a part of I will make it 1.1. For building it, I will write mvn, cleaning the project, installing it my local Maven repository, and I don't want to run the test cases as of now, so I'm skipping the test cases.
And basically, you're running this development you're doing in IntelliJ.
Yes, as of now, I'm using IntelliJ.
Okay. Any specific reason to use this?
No, we initially we were facing in the previous versions of Anypoint Studio, we were facing some issues with Eclipse also in the previous version, so we switched to IntelliJ. But as of now, all those are resolved. But we think IntelliJ is much more lighter than all those Eclipse and Anypoint Studio, so we stick to it. It's a personal choice, frankly speaking. So
I thought the development is kind of very easy, or we can say that there's no kind of problem or kind of bugs will be limited here. So there is meanwhile it is building. So let's answer some question. So there's a question from Sumit: how to define different tabs in a single operation as property?
as property, different tabs. When you say tabs, okay,
I think it's talking about like
these tabs.
advanced error handling, correct?
Yes. So we have multiple annotations for it. I will tell you in as a part of our demonstration how we can include a parameter group also, how we can enhance this parameter also. So it's totally depend upon what data type you are using, what annotations you are using. So the different annotations and properties are provided over Mule Sdk documentation. There are a lot of them which we can make use of to build up these tabs.
So basically this configuration as a Salesforce configuration, so they created an annotation for that. If you use that annotation, so ultimately tabs is created, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And there is one question from Nilesh. Sorry, Neeraj. Sorry, my mistake. One question. Say Mule provided out-of-box connector has some limitation. Okay. Is there a possibility to customize the out-of-box connector and cater our needs? For example, existing connector don't have such kind of functionality which we require. So what is a better way we can do that?
I don't recommend to do changes in their code. Like we have it's a future era, so we can always decompile the code provided. Like I can also decompile the code provided, and it is a part of Salesforce connector. I can use a decompiler to see how things are working. Cause I will give an example. I was facing some issue with the web service consumer, and it's not the problem at our end. So I just decompiled it and checked, like there was some error related to some expression which we never used in our project. But when I decompiled the code and I saw that expression is a part of the code of that particular connector. So in that way you can debug it, but I don't recommend to change the code, because you never know what they have written and what's the significance of each line. So better get in touch with the particular organization who is responsible for building it up and get it resolved. Else you can build up a custom connector from scratch, which can help you out with your requirement.
Okay. Okay, Chetan. Another question we have, the intelligent J you are using, the community edition is sufficient for custom connector, or you can suggest something else, or
Uh,
intelligent?
Enterprise is the paid one. You can go with community edition is much more helpful. There's you can do anything with it, so that's fine. We are just adding using the it for coding Java. But
Okay. And what Mulesoft suggested that, for example, if I create a custom connector from my side, and it is time to publish into the exchange, and we have got checklists from Mulesoft side, so that is kind of point they mentioned that you can do custom development on particular uh, tool like Eclipse or IntelliJ, or
it's nothing. They don't like they don't limit on that part, because development is on our hand. They just want it a proper pipeline to be built up, because we have to take care of, because they generally recommend Git, so everything goes by Git. So we just push it there, and the pipeline is take care of publishing or deploying it to the exchange, the
okay.
Mulesoft exchange.
Okay, thank you. Another question from Abdul:
Mhm.
how to apply validation on provided input before invoking a target system? Validation.
Okay, yeah, you can do it. Like, let's say, I will tell you, first I'll need to tell you how these things are working. Uh, I will take this question later on, Sheikh, because I need to show something before we get
Okay.
into that discussion.
Yeah, yeah, no problem.
So do we have any other question?
No, no, no. As of now, we don't have any question. We can proceed that.
Okay, so as you see, it got installed in my local Maven repo. I will
Mhm.
use this group ID, artifact ID, and version to import into my Mule project. So I will just directly go to POM, add the dependency here. And adding the dependency, putting those information. We have to tell what is the classifier for this dependency. So for all connector, it is Mule plugin we are importing. Okay. Let's save it. Go back to this demo project. You can see it's
Name is Mule plugin connector, correct? And version is 1.0.1.
yes.
Okay.
Change some settings. Okay. So it's not coming up here. Dependency mule plugin. Okay, I got the one version which I built up before. Might be some issue with this build. Okay, let's talk about this version first. So as you can see, what we have discussed is about the operations. So in this operation class, I have two operation, the public operations. The last one is the private method, which is being used by this particular public method. So I have two public methods here, which is retrieve information, retrieve info, and say hi. So as a part of this demo module, I got two operations, which is retrieve info and say hi. So for say hi, I have only one parameter, which is taken as an input, and you can see there is no configuration tag. Why is it so? Because this particular operation is not using any configuration here as a part of input, but for retrieve information, I am using some configuration, some connection. Okay, so it's totally optional, like for your operation need any configuration to run. Let's say I have an operation which is taking in some payload, and based upon the heavy payload, it's just chunking into and paginating into it. So for that, we don't need any configuration. We can just directly use some parameters here only, like uh, how many records each page should contain and other information. So there I don't need configuration, but for some operations which will make outbound call, I can use some common configuration. So I can use @config and import it as a argument or parameter of that method. So if you see this retrieve info, I have some configuration here. And if I click on the configuration, I'm only having one configuration because I was having only one configuration class which is supporting this operation. So in this configuration, I have a common parameter named. The parameter is another annotation being used by Mule Sdk to tell like this is the parameter which is being used and should be showed as a part of GUI, which is the so here the parameter name is config ID for this configuration. So you can see that config ID here in the general. But as I said, it also tells about the connection provider, like the class which will be responsible for making the connectivity. So in this connection provider, I have some other parameters named optional parameter and a required parameter. So I got a required parameter here, and for optional parameter, I can't see it as optional because I have used another annotation which is display name, and I have given it as some XYZ name or a friendly name. So as I have now, they've provided a value as friendly name, so it is giving it as friendly name for that. This is helpful when you want to show something else to the user, but internally the variable name should be something else. So you can make use of this property. If I don't annotate it with the annotation of optional, so by default it will be required. So you can see I am getting an error icon and it says attribute required parameter is required. But if I say it is optional and provide a default value of 100, it will make it as optional and it is giving a default value. If I even remove it, it will not give any problem. But internally, use this configuration, a value of 100 will be passed automatically as a value of this parameter. So this is how what we have written here is rendering the GUI. So let's do some changes here again. I have some other parameters which we can make use of, like these two. For required parameter, so I use two more annotation, which is summary and example, and let's see how it reflects. So I'll build it again.
one question.
Mhm.
Basically, as we have a thread management in Mule 3, can define. So the same way, what actually in the current development in Mule 4.
Okay, so internally it is making use of the Java thread handling, and which is enhanced by Mule Sdk. But if you want to alter those things, you can always do it, because as I said, it's Java. So based upon your um, requirement, you can use the thread classes or enable interface to make or to synchronize between your operations. But one more thing is there, the good point with the Java SDK is you can create non-blocking operations. If you heard about, we have blocking, non-blocking, CPU light intensive type of operation in Mule. So when I say non-blocking, it will not block the whole Mulesoft execution, and to make it, we have to use the callback URIs rather than returning something from an operation. So as of now, you can see I'm returning a string. I might be returning some map or input stream. But if I use those, that will make the whole operation as blocking, because the whole mule flow is depending upon the response from this particular operation. But if I want to make it non-blocking, I can implement callback URIs, and I have to make the output as void. So it will make use of those callbacks, and it will make it non-blocking. So that is again a very vast topic we can dig upon later.
Yes, and one more question from my side.
Mhm.
Uh, uh, as uh, as we can see that in Mule 4.3, the new threading mechanism come Uber. Okay, so all thread is coming from Uber thread in the latest means of runtime. But before that, we have a CPU intensive, CPU light, and IO blocking. So is there any kind of property available in the operation itself? Ki this operation support CPU intensive, CPU light, or blocking, IO blocking.
Yes, we have some annotation which tells about it is intensive or blocking or not.
Okay, I
So
got it. And then Mulesoft suggested that key for logger it will be light, for the script it will be intensive, and for the database operation all those should be IO blocking.
yes, I need to see where this. Let me
Okay.
quickly check. I'm building it up, but it's not. It's com.mulesoft. Okay, jar. I have jar for 1.0, but I'm not having jar for 1.0. Not sure why. Let me quickly check it. Directly put it.
Now you have built a 1.0.2, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Previously in Mule 3, we have to install the custom connector, but here it's a dependency. We have to just add the dependency and we can use connector.
Yes, we can do it that way. I'm having problem with my local Maven. I will just directly import the jar. I'm not sure where is my local to. Okay. So I got version 1.0.2 here. And let's see what are the changes we did is reflecting here or not. So in connection provider class, I have introduced two more annotations for required parameter, which is the summary and example. Summary is nothing but an annotation which is responsible for giving a tooltip to that particular parameter, and example is nothing but a placeholder. So you can see I got a placeholder which tells about like what type of value it entertains, and when I hover over this parameter, it says this is a required parameter. So I have written a summary of this is a required parameter, so it comes up as a tooltip, and the example comes as a placeholder. Okay, so Sheikh, I guess you have mentioned about the last question which we have parked upon as of now. Can you please repeat on that?
Okay, the question is kind of query parameter, means they said if I have Salesforce connector and the query connector under it, how can we see the development? I think this is the question we have missed. Or let me, we develop custom connector, we get certified. That is, yeah, different tabs. How to define a different tabs in single operation as property? This was the question, I think.
Oh, that we already answered about that. We can use some annotations to build up those on tabs. I guess there was some question like where they are talking about how we can have multiple parameters under an operation, right?
Okay, or please pose the question again.
Yeah, if anybody have like if we missed out their question, can they put in the chat?
Validation. How to apply validation on
Oh,
provided
yeah.
input before invoking a target system? Yes.
Correct. So as of now, you can see as a part of this say hi, I'm getting a string here. So once I get that string in my operation, okay, here, so in as a part of this business logic, I can write like whatever string I got, like person, and I will write is if person contains some particular regular expression, then what I will do, I will just generate an error, else I will go with my normal processing. So in that way, you can validate whatever you have got first, and if it passes, you can give it to your end system. So we have total control over whatever inputs we got. So we will do a basic checks over it and we will send it to the end system. So for that, let's say you want to validate a JSON. In your resources, you can put a JSON schema and you can use the JSON or JSON library provided by Google to validate the inbound JSON with the JSON schema you have. And if it doesn't matches, you can propagate an error to the user, else you will proceed with your processing. Hope I am clear on that, what I just said. Check you there.
One more question.
Mm-hmm.
How to add dependency of custom connector while deploying the application on Cloud Hub or on premises?
Correct. We will cover it as once we are done with it. So you have to do some changes in your POM of your particular extension module in order to deploy it to your organization exchange. And once you did it, everybody who is part of that organization or that business group can import it and make use of it.
Okay, so it's a part of dependency. And
yes, we will talk about it later. Like it's just a straightforward process. You have to define some properties, like what Mule version this asset will support, and you have to tell about the distribution system. So in distribution management tag, we have to tell on which repository we want to export this information, and there's some proper URL provided by Mulesoft followed by your organization ID. So if you do that change and put in your POM of your extension, and you have to provide the credentials in the settings.xml of your M2 folder about talking about the credentials of your Mulesoft Mulesoft account, Mulesoft Anypoint account. So after doing these few changes, you will be able to, if you do MVN deploy, it will automatically take care of everything. It will just deploy to your organization and you can see it in Exchange. But it will not be publicly available. It will be available for your organization. To make it publicly available, you have to go with that certification process and get in touch with Mulesoft, because they have to, if you want to make it publicly available, they have to deploy on their repositories and under their account. So let's move forward. I will do a small change again also about grouping up the connector. So for that, I will introduce one more configuration change here. I'll introduce a parameter group, which is nothing but a grouping of the parameters. I'll introduce a class here. Let's see, test class will have a single parameter type private string new param group. New param, I will just say, okay. So I have created a class test, and in the configuration class, I have introduced in the configuration connection provider class, I introduced a parameter group of name new group, and the data type it is supporting is the properties. So whatever I will do under this class, it will be populated in GUI. So let's see how it looks like. Version 3. Okay, it's done. Let's change the dependency here.
something happening with Maven.
Yes, I also doubt that. Now here it says it is here.
Yes.
Actually, save and
Apply and close. Okay.
Okay, I'll try it one more time, changing the Maven configuration. Okay, that's weird. Okay. So as I have introduced one more parameter group. So you can see there's a bifurcation here, and it includes a new parameter, which is the name of the parameter, which I've mentioned here in the test class. So this is how the Mule SDK is responsible for changing your code, your annotation, whatever you're giving to the GUI. In the same way, for that tab thing, we have to look forward like what annotations and data type we can use to introduce a new tab under the configuration. So Jake, either you can provide me the name of the person who had this question so I can get in touch with that particular person and help with that. And there is one more thing we need to see here. You have seen we have some description here, the commented. We call it as Java docs. So how it helps, the Mule SDK converts that Java doc to whatever we see helpful here as a part of that operation. It says example of an operation that uses configuration. So it's nothing but what we have written as a part of Java doc. It senses it and it make it as the tooltip for that particular operation.
Nice. We don't need to write a separate documentation. We can use self inbuilt functionality.
Correct. So that it just your custom connector should have Java docs. This is one of the checkpoint we need to take care when we are submitting our custom connector to the Mulesoft. So your project should have all these Java doc for each and every method which is being used.
Okay.
So there's one more hack we can make use of. Let's say I will run this and I will put a logger here. I'll introduce a listener so we can trigger it. Connector. Yes, I already have a configuration. I'm listening on 8081, having the resource name as /connectors. I'm making use of this say hi configuration. I will say Mule. The name of the person is Mule. Added a breakpoint. Let's say as from development perspective, what if I want to see how my internal code is working? Like it's not like we just build up something here and import it in the endpoint studio and check everything is, if anything fails, we never know how or where the code exactly broke up or it broke up, right? So for that in IntelliJ we can make use of some configurations. Let's say in the debug, if I go to debug, I will go to edit configuration. I'm using, you can add up a remote configuration always here. So I already added one, and here I get a command line which I can put into the remote JVM. So if I say debug, so it will say as of now it is not connected to anything because I haven't provided this this argument as a part of the debug configuration. So let's say I want to debug this particular application demo project. So what I have copied from there, this is the argument, VM argument, which I need to provide, what I got from the IntelliJ, and I say debug.
Wow.
So what it will do, once our operation is triggered out, it will directly, whatever parameters we have given, it would directly come in as a debugger here. So we can just go step by step and see how our program is working, and we can check and keep check and surveillance every step. So, and we can do the runtime whatever we can do here, we can do there also as a part of what are the parameters, how they are flowing. If you want to evaluate anything and do some code changes, some value changes, you can do it. So this adds up more functionality when it comes to the development. Okay, I guess I don't need it.
And it can be very nice feature, because suppose hundreds of lines we have written using a Mule SDK, and I want to check that where it is failing. So every time importing dependency running, every time changing the code, every time import dependency is kind of very time consuming process.
Correct.
Okay.
So I will just trigger whatever I have here.
Correct.
Oh, sorry. Yes. I got in project mode. So, okay. So right decision. Yeah. So I got my call here. So as soon as I make it, one more thing I missed. I have to connect it, right? So I will say connected. It says connected to the VM target address localhost 550. So this is the payload. Sorry, the port which is exported by the remote JVM. I will do next. You can see it's popping up here. So I got my call here. The value I got is person as Mule. So I can do anything. I can keep track of whatever things I am getting. I can evaluate the things here. Like what is the value of person. So it says Mule. And I can do next. So it goes to this business logic, and it will, so once I'm done, it will return back here and so on. So I got my output which says hello Mule. So this is a small hack which we can use with IntelliJ, or they can be in the other IDE also, like connecting your debuggers with the remote VM and debugging your code at the runtime. So this is very useful and helpful feature when it comes to the connector development. So do we have any question, Sheikh?
Yes, we have some questions. So let me, how to apply validation that is done. Do we need take care of error handling, or does Mule SDK take care?
Yeah, that's a good question. Internally, it will use the default error handling based upon whatever is there in the SDK, but it's not recommended when we go with custom connectors. We have to create our own error classes and tell the extension about what error handling class we are using in order to what a global error handler is being used as a part of this whole module. So it is a different concept. There's a layer we need to create. There's a class called error types. Error handling. Error types is more about telling about what are all the errors which can be thrown by this module. So they can populate in your palette. Like if for HTTP requester, when I say see, so here I have error handling, so I can map the errors. So what are these? These are the part of that error type dot class file. So all those are populating here. So in the similar way, we have to create some additional classes and tell the extension like we are going to follow this error handler, which is defined by us. So it's a very different concept, and we can, if public one, we can take it into consideration as a part of next session. But I can give you a hint. We have to define our custom error handling to reflect our requirements.
Yes. Okay. So we have one more question from Sumit. How to manage different versions of single connector?
Okay. Managing it in Exchange. If it goes to Exchange, you can deploy it, right? I can just change while deploying. I can change the version here, and sensing the group ID and the artifact ID, the multiple versions will be available in the Exchange for the same custom connector.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So guys, I think Chetan, you have done from your side, correct?
I just need 10 more minutes of
Okay.
yours.
Yes.
So if anybody is interested in how we can populate the metadata.
Okay.
So for that, let's say I want to introduce application JSON in my operation. As of now, you can see there is no payload body for this operation. I don't have any payload which is accepting a payload. For that, what we can do here is for say hi, I will introduce one more attribute which is nothing but an input. I will naming it as input. I will tell you the significance of each of these. As I want to go with JSON input, I am accepting a map because JSON is nothing but a map, combination of string and objects. And I'm annotating it with a content because this is the main content box of that operation. And if I want to go with some metadata, I can use annotation input JSON type, and I'm using a schema here. So this schema.json is not introduced as of now. As soon as, let's say, I will create a JSON file here, new schema.json, and I can go to JSON to schema. Serial number is 1. So this is the JSON. I'm generating a schema for it. I generated a schema and I put in my new schema.json under the resources. Say I want to refer to this schema as an input. So I introduce the input JSON schema and I have to tell what schema I need to follow. I click on this. I got a new JSON schema. So I introduce one new parameter, which is which the name is input, and it is a content box of type map, and it will follow the schema. Now let's build it up. Version 4. Okay, build a success. change the version to 1.0.4. This time it's got populated. Nope, it's not getting. This is very weird. Okay, I got 1.0.4 here. I got a new parameter which is input, and it is taking some payload. If I click on this, you can see what we are expecting. It says a name and serial number, and it tells what should be the type of these parameters.
So that is how for every connector metadata is generating.
Yeah, this is one of the way we are using a schema file. There are input resolvers, output resolvers for dynamic metadata loading also. So there are multiple ways we can use Java based classes also. So this is one of the way which can be used to reflect the metadata for a connector.
Yeah, welcome, Subha. We are here to basically explore every aspect of connector development.
Okay, so one more thing we can we had a question about deploying it, right? So let's say for that, what I need to do is I have to introduce the repository where I want to, and this is the standard, and you have to give your organization ID. So let's say this is my, I can go to access management and grab my organization ID. So this is my organization ID, and can copy it and go to the form of my project, the connector project, and replace here my organization ID. And in the place of group ID, we also need to change it to the organization ID. And other than that, I have to add a server in the servers in my .m2 folder in settings.xml file. Okay, so in settings.xml, you have to add a server with your with the ID, the username and password of your endpoint platform.
Okay.
So I have what changes I did: adding up a server in settings.xml, changing the group ID of your project to your organization ID, adding up distribution management, added a repository under it. So this you can find on the Mulesoft documentation, like how we can deploy an asset to an organization. And I also changed the organization ID in my under this. So this will put move all the code to under my organization. So for that, I will run a mvn deploy and the skip test. So as of now, I have only these two assets, which is a REST API. Okay, there's some error, could not transfer 401. Okay, I guess my settings XML.
Username and password. Okay.
So I need to stop for a while. Just give me a minute. So I guess it is using some, Maven is having some problem with the settings. So Sheikh, I guess there's some problem with my Maven, but I can assure like the credentials are not working as of now for me.
No problem, no problem. But ultimately,
That's it.
in this step, you are basically uploading your connector in Exchange, in your private Exchange, we can say.
Yes. So this will, what it will do, it will populate one more module here saying connector of that name, and it can be found under my organization, and everybody who is part of this organization can download it and can make use of it.
Like we have a JSON connector,
Yes.
JSON module we have. It is not in
Yes.
Exchange, it is in private Exchange of
Correct.
okay.
Correct. So if you want to make it restrict to a particular business group for under an organization, because under an organization we have multiple business groups also, right? So rather than giving a organization ID, you should give the business group ID if you want to restrict to a particular business group.
Business group to business group. Yes.
Correct.
So that business group people can only download that particular
Yes.
connector.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Do we
Okay.
have any
So
question?
I think we have I think last question: how to define a connector as a source or a scope or a normal processor?
Correct. So that's a good question. I'm glad someone mentioned about it. So if you see the ultimately all of these are internally in operations. It totally depends on what we are implementing or extending. So if we want to go with a scope, we have to give an annotation, or if we want to go with some other thing, we have to some validation module. Let's say I'm creating a validation module, I have to use annotation like @validation and so on. For scope, I guess we have to implement for that operation or class, I have to implement another class which says scope or something. So it's available for SDK.
I think the Sumit asked a very good question. If we can
Yes.
implement operation as a listener or a scope or a processor also.
Yes, for that we have some documentation available. I'm not getting it here, but it totally depends on what we are implementing as a part of that class, what we are extending of that class, or again, the annotation we are using.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So
So basically here it is, which tells about the scope or routers or stuff like that. So you can see if it is a scope like a try scope, then we have to import a chain operation in the arguments. So it will make it as a scope.
okay, got it. So guys, do you have any other questions before we move to the other things of this meetup? Okay, no question. So let me give you the what we are going to do. So thank you, Sumit. Yeah, thank you, Abhay. We tried to give you the best how exactly we are doing and how exactly the connector development and the what problem they're facing, what kind of things we need to know. That as Chetan showing some wonderful things, like the most wonderful, I like the debugging. Every developer is required debugging. That is kind of most the valuable feature we have from Mulesoft side and intelligence. And another is metadata. It's help a lot, metadata. Okay. So, but guys, it's my humble request that after this meetup, you will get one feedback mail. Okay. So I know that there is a wonderful participant in this meetup group, and you guys are very involved. You ask a question, we give an answer, but we want one more things from your side. So how you like this session? This session can be improved more. What kind of things you want to like more, or in future any suggestion, in future any topic you want to suggest. So we will work on that. Okay, so we will give you the topic you want. So basically, please submit that feedback. Okay, and there's a quiz session. We have a number of questions we will ask, and 3 winners will be selected for training. But there is some guidelines for quiz winner. So I'm saying that whosoever will be win. So just participate if you don't get any voucher in past or training voucher. I mean that if you're already having a training voucher or certification voucher, so please don't participate in that, because we want to give a training voucher to those who haven't got it yet. They definitely want to get opportunity to get training if you already won. So this is my humble request for everyone that we should follow that guidelines. Everyone get the voucher if they don't get in the past. Okay, and but before that we will take a picture. So we will take a picture, then we will do the quiz, then we will discuss what will be the next. So just please turn on a video, please, of I will take a screenshot for 5 minutes. Yeah.
So while everybody is turning on their videos, I would like to thank Sheikh and the team for giving me this opportunity. So you guys can reach out to me on chetan.joshi@episode.com if you have any further more questions, and if you want to continue this topic or any other, maybe just share it with Sheikh as a part of feedback.
Let me make presenter. Rajesh and Chetan, can you help me make not make host, just make presenter, maybe the video enable for everyone. Abhishek Badwal, let me know if you're able to turn on video. Yes. Don't make host, just presenter mode. So we will take. Yeah, thank you, Ashok, for turning on video. I think Ravi, presenter mode already on. Neeraj, presenter mode on. Rakesh, presenter mode on. Sai, presenter mode on. I think okay, presenter mode on. Sridhar, mode on. Yes, hi Monil. Okay. Presenter mode on. I think one by one it is on already. Okay, so I have taken a screenshot of of everyone. So let's take the quiz start. So it's my humble request that please participate only those guys who don't get the voucher for training and certification. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and so 1 minute. So I'm going to paste question in Notepad here. Stop sharing. Stop sharing. Screen sharing. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to paste question here. And from this question, I will take two winners from this question. Every question I will take two winners. First two winners who answer in the chat. Okay, so in the chat section. And let me give you an idea about the first question. The first question is the question I want answer in a single line. Okay, there not be multiple line you will be hitting. Okay, just think about the question and just give me answer in a single line. I will consider the one who give me answer in a single line. It is not something that 50% answer in a first, then 50% in a second line. Okay, so and Chetan help me out. The first two winners who gave the answer. Okay. I will increase the font size. Okay. I think it's okay, right? Increase the font size. Okay. So let me copy the question. So I think you're able to see my screen, correct? Chetan?
Yes.
And question is visible to everyone?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So just write the answer in the chat. Okay. Chetan, are we getting first two?
Yes. Yeah, we got first two, which is Neeraj Kumar and Abhay Maheshwari.
Okay. So let me give Neeraj Kumar, and the second one is
Abhay Maheshwari, ABHAY.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you, guys. So this is the first two winner of. So basically, ultimately, the final will be three winner only. So every question two winner. Then we will be doing the wheel, and we will select three winner from six winner. Okay. Question number second. I'm going to paste here. So the question number second, having the option, you don't need to answer me the full answer. You will just need to choose the answer, the option. Okay. So let me. I pasted. Who is the responsible for supporting Mulesoft Certified connector?
Okay. I guess we got first two, which is Shanti, Ariyanti, and Mona Kumari.
Okay, the B. So Santi, SHANTHI, Okay. And the second one, Mona Kumari.
Is Mona Kumari.
Okay. Mona Kumari. Thank you, Santi and Mona Kumari, for participating. So let me paste the third question. It will also be kind of don't try A, B, C, A, enter, B, enter, C, enter. Okay, we will reject you. Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay. So let me paste the question here. Okay. So connector migration from Mule 3 to Mule 4, which option is correct?
I guess
Who? Have we got
I guess we mixed up here.
No. Sumit Rabal, and the Sumit Rabal is the last one of second question.
Okay.
From Tarun Rathod.
Okay.
You have to see.
Sumit Raval who said A and B.
No.
Right.
I think Sumit Raval answered for the second question, but this is
Yes. A and B. Yeah, I got it. So we have. So we are not going to consider who answered the previous question, right?
No. We will not consider him. Who is already answered? We will test later.
So we have two, Subha and Velu.
Okay.
Subha Rajani and Velu Govindashyam. Shame.
And Shuma and Belu.
Yes. So as we discussed, we have DevKit migration tool for migrating a Mule 3 to Mule 4 connector. It's for the connector which are 3.8 or more.
So basically, I'm going to do the shuffling. Neeraj Kumar. Chetan, my screen is visible, correct?
Yes, we can see the wheel.
Let me make it one. Okay. Okay. Okay, shuffle. Okay, guys. Chetan, can you write down name?
Okay,
Yes.
sure.
My screen is visible, correct? The wheel?
Yes.
Okay.
Neeraj, read Neeraj.
Neeraj Kumar.
We got the name for Neeraj Kumar.
Okay. Remove. Shuffle. Okay.
Okay. Second, we have Mona Kumari.
Shuffle. And the last winner, all the best for.
But that's our wonderful efforts, like all of the participants.
Yes. Shubha.
Subha.
Yes.
Subha
Okay.
Rajani.
Yes. Okay. So let me stop that, and let me present my screen.
Congrats, guys.
Yeah. So guys, just ping me your email ID in the personal chat to me. So I will fill from behalf of you. So let me present my screen. So what is share? Okay. So basically, this is the point of contact that you can contact me on here, or you can contact me directly on LinkedIn. My name is Sheikh Moinuddin for suggesting a topic. And this is our Ahmedabad group meetup link. You can assign for, you can basically subscribe that, so you will get event notification from our side. Next meetup and date is decided. Location is virtual, and topic is not decided, but we will publish the topic as soon as possible. And if you want to be a speaker, you want to give a session on that, so basically nominate yourself. Every speaker will get goodies from Mulesoft side. Okay, so, and this is from kind of last thing from my side. So I'm kind of happy that I have got those guys are joining basically and involved fully in this meetup group. And as you asked multiple questions and we have asked multiple answer and try to give our best side, and you've also given me a full contribution of yours. So I'm thank you for everyone. I'm thank you for Chetan also for giving a wonderful session, for giving a wonderful tricks for custom connector development. So guys, please submit feedback. It is my humble request from my side. Please submit feedback. Anything you can submit, anything you don't like, anything you like, what is the improvement in required, what will be the next topic, how you feel about this presentation. So suggestions are accepted. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chetan. Thank you, Sheikh.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chetan. Thank you, Sheikh.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, you're welcome, guys.
So एक ग्रुप ले लेते हैं, ग्रुप फोटो ले लेते हैं. आप सर हैं क्या, राजेश सर? नहीं है, आई थिंक. तो ऐसे ही ले लेता हूँ, मैं एक स्क्रीनशॉट ठीक करके ले लेता हूँ. बहुत अच्छा सेशन दिया यार मेरे को तो. वो सबसे वो मेटाडेटा, पहले इस फोटो ले लेते हैं आपको. यस राजेश सर, कैसा लगा आपको? कैसा था? आवाज नहीं आ रही, म्यूट पे हो शायद आप.
Sorry, yes, I was on mute. Yeah, all good. Always good.
Thank you. So,
how are you?
I'm good. And the Chetan is from Episode, worked on the connector development team and developed multiple connectors. So I thought that Chetan is the best person for this speaker.
No, amazing. I mean, Chetan, your knowledge is so good and so deep. So it was very good session. And even some of the things which I was not aware, I learned a lot of things new. Because I developed connectors in Mule 3 more, and but Mule 4 I haven't got chance in that yet.
That's great.
Yeah, but it was like they have done a lot of things, so that's good thing to know. Great. Where are you based out, Chetan?
I am based in Indore, Madhya Pradesh.
Okay, great. Okay. So let's meet in Ahmedabad.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. When this COVID thing gets over, for sure.
Now it's almost controlled, so we can, I mean, definitely come and meet Ahmedabad.
Yes.
Great. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you. So let me take one screenshot.
Sure.
Taken screenshot. And have you got email IDs of our quiz winner? I already sent, but I can't participate. Okay. In the chat, we got email ID or not?
Let me check. Yeah, Mona Kumari has given Subha also given email ID in both chat.
Okay.
Mona
and Subha.
Subha, we need from Neeraj Kumar also.
Mona Kumar की email ID है shmona2309 @gmail.com. And नीरज ने नहीं दिया है, पर सुबह ने दिया ना.
Subha ne diya, yeah. Neeraj ne nahi.
JANI.
subarajani@gmail.com.
जल्द नहीं किए तो प्लीज को मैं कांटेक्ट कर दूंगा. Okay. Okay, thank you, Rajesh. Thank you, Chetan.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank you.
Sheikh. Thanks,
Yeah.
Rajesh.
Thank you. Thanks for your time, everyone. Yeah,
Yeah.
and enjoy the weekend now.
Yeah. You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.